Jesse, this is my favorite story. It's got all sorts of things that I want to talk about, but I will ask you questions instead. Can you imagine President Biden going to Missouri or Alabama or Arkansas and showing that sign of kind of confidence in this election year to say, I'm here to try to talk to you voters?
I actually don't think it's a good idea for him to go there. It could get a little hairy, but, you know, if he has the courage, go for it. I don't think it's going to turn out any new voters, but this will. First, AOC, there's no evidence he's bussing anybody in. Johnny's been there since 2 o'clock. That's BS. And he's not using it to raise money. If you were to raise money, would you go to the Bronx and get people's email addresses and then hit them up for like a $10 donation? That's not happening. And the other guy that says that this was a catastrophe, Trump's presidency for the Bronx, why? Because there were lower prices, lower rent, lower crime, lower migrants. I don't even know what the guy's talking about. So it does seem like they're trying to say Trump's racist. And they have to go all the way back into the 80s to say he's racist. I remember in the 80s, blacks loved Trump. In the 90s, they loved him. In the 2000s, blacks wanted to beat Trump. Everybody wanted to beat Trump, no matter what color you are. That changed when he ran for president. And I don't think black Americans even really knew who Joe Biden was until Barack Obama tapped him for VP. But the way the electoral system is in this country, because time is money, a lot of the times you raise money in your own strongholds and then you campaign in the battlegrounds and you kind of leave your other opponent's base alone. That's off the table now because Trump smells weakness. So he's diving into Joe Biden's base. And, you know, voters are like women, Dana. They want to be courted. They want you to lavish attention on them. So the Bronx is now like, hey, where you been all my life? Come over here. And he's coming, and he is going to come strong. I think if you replicate this, maybe not in New York, but if you go into these deep blue precincts in Philly, you do it in Milwaukee, you do it in Atlanta, you do it in Detroit. If you can even just get in a battleground maybe 3 to 4 more % of the black and Hispanic vote in these cities, that makes a huge difference in November.
And Harold, it's not just New York. I want to get your take on this as well. But there was a poll today showing New Hampshire, Trump up in New Hampshire over Biden. Biden was there this week with one of the weakest campaign events I've seen since the Wawa.
So good to be back. I think 2 things. It is very smart for candidates to go and meet people where they live, to understand their needs and challenges and aspirations and dreams and hopes. And the only way you can do that is to not box out or not alienate or not eliminate going to places. I'm old enough to remember when California was a reliably Republican state for presidential candidates. I was old enough to remember when New York elected Republican governors, and even Massachusetts elected Republican governors. One thing is for certain, you won't get the vote of people, or any person, if you don't go and ask them. And you don't understand people if you don't go and see how they live, where they live, and understand why it is they may have needs that are different than other communities across the country. That's number one. Number two, I think it's fair to go after President Trump on things that he's said in the past, and he should just answer it. I do think that there are things that he has done and said that I find a little off-putting, but he's answered a lot of those questions, and I think that voters will have an opportunity to view him in a light that is fair to him. But you can't expect to get any votes if you don't go into these places. Now, to my last point, to your point, Jesse, I think black voters should not be thought of reflexively as Democratic voters. We have voted Democrat in the past, largely because the Democratic Party has, we believe, stood up for us at times of need, in times of grief, political grief that is, and when has stood up for us in terms of education and other things. But if you listen to what those people said there in the Bronx, residents of the Bronx, I assume that they are people we had in our package, they welcomed the president coming and said, we want you to hear what we have to say. And if you have a better set of answers than the guy you're running against, we're gonna grade you on how you plan to chart a future that includes us. So I applaud the president for going.
Let's talk to a lifelong New Yorker who knows that President Trump loves New York. He wants it to be a better city. And they'll hear that tonight.
They will hear that. And, you know, the thing about the Democrats saying things like the Bronx Dems plan to counter the enemy Trump and the whole idea that AOC is saying, you know, Trump is now, you know, he should be embarrassed. The truth is, Trump is a true New Yorker. He's proved it. I've walked down the street with him 30 years ago. And if it was a cop or someone with a hard hat or a waitress, and I've said this before, they loved him. They always loved him. And it wasn't until he ran for president where all of a sudden the people who loved him decided that they hated him. But I'm not so sure. Wait a minute. I'm not so sure that they hated him. I think that they were told to hate him because he was a Republican. He was the same guy he was when he was walking down the street. But you get people like AOC, and you realize that she is representative of a dictatorial approach to politics in America. And that's where the left is right now. They don't want to see him in their area. They don't want people to vote for him. They don't even want you to listen to him. And that's what's so sick about all of this. And, you know, AOC is acting like, you know, I grew up here. And that's a quote. She didn't grow up there. She was born in the Bronx. She grew up in Westchester County, one of the most affluent counties in the country. She went to Hackley. She went to Boston College. I mean, she has, she can't lay claim to the Bronx or anywhere else. And where does Donald Trump go? He goes where people are afraid to go. He's going to Harlem. He's been to a bodega. He goes and talks to construction workers. And people want to hear from him because they're not happy with what the Democrats are selling them. They're not happy having to pay for food. They're not happy that the illegals are getting better rights and more products and more benefits than they are. And they're not happy with the fact that they've got to pay more for gas and $11,000 more a year just to live because of the Democrats' inflation.
One of the things that Biden does repeatedly is talk about the MAGA minions and the extremists and cutting off those voters.
Yeah.
Right? And then President Trump has taken a different tack, which is to say, I know they might not like me, but I'm going to go talk to them anyway. So he's like expanding the circle.
Well, he also runs to the challenge and not to the basement. And I don't think Biden is capable of doing anything outside his comfort zone, especially when that comfort zone is a room with round-the-clock nurses and no sharp objects. It is amazing to see AOC kind of somehow offended that Trump would campaign in the Bronx and speak to thousands of voters. How dare he? Because her candidate can't do that. It's not fair. But it's not Trump's fault that Biden's imploding like an Iranian helicopter. Remember, AOC... Pelosi described her, what did Pelosi say about her? A glass of water could be elected there, as long as it's a registered Democrat, right? She didn't have to be any good. AOC is now less popular than a glass of water from Flint, Michigan. Nobody likes her. Trump draws crowds. She repels them. You brought it up yesterday. AOC killed the Amazon job, the Amazon jobs deal. That cost the city thousands of jobs in her district and tax-paying citizens. It's the story of socialism. You don't know the real opportunity cost of electing a Marxist because you never experience what could have been because they destroyed the opportunity. I don't think the media is ready to admit how bad Biden has gotten and how good Trump has gotten in the same time frame. It's like watching a video of a house being built at an accelerated speed, but then right next to it, it's the same tape in reverse. At this rate, Biden's going to be gone and Trump's going to be sunning himself on Mount Rushmore. But you'll still have Joe Scarborough going, but wait, Biden, he can still breathe. The machine, it's still beeping.
I love it. We're going to carry it live. I think we have 49 minutes left to go. Johnny is there. Alexis McAdams is there. And looks like there's a lot of energy. And there's some flags. You got to love that.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.